Okay, good evening. I'm going to call to order the January 24th, 2020 Governance Committee meeting at 6:02 p.m. Mr. Shope, could I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Spencer Anderson.
Present.
Megan Miller.
Present. Can you hear me okay?
I saw our icon go, but I didn't hear it.
Oh, do you want me to come out? Can you hear me at all or no?
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my sound. Hold on one moment, please.
Okay.
Okay, Megan Miller.
I think she might have jumped out. She'll come back around, though. Oh, there she is. She's back.
Okay, here she's coming back in.
Present. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, Megan Miller.
Hi, present. Are you able to hear me?
And Sean Levy.
Present.
All members are present.
Can we get a little more volume for Megan? I can't hear her.
Are you able to hear me, folks?
Of the agenda.
So moved.
Board member Megan, I can actually hear you. I know you're asking the question, can you hear me? I can hear you.
How's your sound? Because you got two of them on it.
Can you hear me okay?
I can switch. All right. So there's a motion for approval by board member Spencer Anderson.
Second. Can you hear me okay?
Can you get more volume?
Maybe you guys don't need the mic. Try it without the mic and just try using your speaker system.
Okay. On the computer?
Second.
One speaker.
That's not gonna work.
That's my speaker on.
Because we're getting feedback from the phone call.
So, for the recording, what part needs to be? Because I can't hear that.
So,
Megan, did you second?
Yeah. Are you able to hear me? I did second.
I can hear a little. Yep, I heard you second. So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Is there a motion for the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Or is there any discussion?
Sorry.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right. So we do have students with us this evening, and so to kind of explain what we do in our governance meeting. In our governance meeting, one of the things that we do is it's made up of different committee chairs of business operations and finance. That's board member Spencer Anderson, teaching, learning, equity, and pupil service committee chair Megan Miller, myself, the board president. And Dr. Willie Garrison has joined us by online also. And our agenda tonight, we've got a lot of different things going on in the school district. We completed a strategic plan. We went through the summer. We hired a new superintendent. And now we're at the point where we examined our finances with our ad hoc committee. And So we have just in our last meeting, voted to go to referendum. And the other place that we're at is that there's other goals or objectives that we need to complete that are part of the strategic plan. So since our agendas have been full, and now that we're moving our way through the work that's in front of the board, these are some other things, because the way that we've used the governance agenda in the past is to kind of keep, bring to the top of our minds and finding space to get things worked on for the district, to keep the district moving forward. So some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to be operating out of the framework of this is what our strategic plan is, how it's lifted, and some things that as at the board level we can do to actualize and move that. Understanding that we also have the context of reconfiguration and our referendum that'll be moving forward. So it's always a matter of time. What things can we do, and do we have the time? But we got to kind of schedule things out. So we continue to have conversations moving forward that will help us be successful, so that we can outcomes that we're hoping for the students in our school, and move those things forward. So that's kind of the context of what's going to happen tonight as we work our way through our agenda. Let's see, Board Member Levy has joined us online, and Board Member Schneider is also here with us. All right. Just a minute. So the way that we'll kind of move tonight is we'll just work our way through the agenda to talk about the different strategic plan areas. This is an opportunity for us to have an open dialogue and move some things towards a direction. If there's things that need to end up in whole board action, we'll kind of move that way. But then also too, as we're working with Dr. Garrison, we might develop some priorities that we have for administrative action, and he and his team will follow up in that area. So our first item, 2A, is finance priority. And connection there, if you're following along on board docs, there are documents and also some websites linked, and this is just resources to kind of put us in a space to keep up with things. So what I'll start with is reading from our strategic plan about finance. So in our strategic plan, the School District of Beloit displays its fiscal responsibility by ensuring that every dollar spent enhances and adds value for our students, staff, and community. Our objective A is a stabilized budget. The School District of Beloit will build and present a stable budget while supporting the goals, effectiveness, and longevity of the district. Objective B, equitable resourcing. The School District of Beloit will follow an equitable model to distribute resources to maximize outcomes for students. Objective C, transparency/communication. School District of Beloit will develop a system and structure to communicate our fiscal responsibility to stakeholder groups. And so those are the three objectives in that area. And I'll open it up to any board member who wants to add to the conversation as we deal with our finance priority.
Board President Levy?
Go ahead, Board Member Miller.
Yeah, sure. I was just kind of curious, like, exactly what kind of feedback are you looking for here?
Just a minute. Can you get louder? Can you please repeat that?
No, sure. I just want to clarify exactly, like, what kind of feedback are you looking for? Are you just like wanting to discuss the Like, are you looking just like for comments, or help me understand a little bit? Sorry.
So, okay, so we'll walk our way through it. So with that, so I just read to you the objectives of our finance priority. Those are the three priorities that were there. So in the documents that were embedded in the presentation, there's like our last presentation that we received from School Perceptions, where we had some questions, like on page 51, on page 43, and on page 46. I think at where we're at right now, we know that we are working. We moved to go to referendum, so that's something that is happening. So that's kind of one way that it's been addressed, but just kind of other ideas or thoughts about our work in this area that you might have.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for clarifying. I appreciated some comments that Dr. Garrison made before about, adjusting our budget timeline. I think that would be helpful. But besides, like in terms of when we approve things so that we can make a difference from year to year, because it feels like our old budget timeline kind of set us back a little bit. Other than that, I mean, I feel like focusing on the referendum is really like the big thing right now. It's probably good to get updates on sort of like how I feel like there's some confusion too in the community about like how things are funded. So I think any opportunity that we have to point out like, while, fund X typically funds this, like the reason that we're asking for operational dollars is to increase the amount that we have in fund X to sustain that. You know what I mean? Because I think there's um I think, in general, school financing is a little overwhelming. So I just think like as we're building up to the referendum, election piece, it's probably good to educate people as much as possible. And I also like the idea of just like, just those periodic updates and bumping the timeline so that we can be a little bit more proactive.
Okay. Right. One of the things that I would add is like, so I'm on page 16, and where we've got our students here. I'm on page 16 of our strategic plan. Like one of the things that we have listed as strategy says identify, protect, and enhance funding streams annually to reflect the district's beliefs and values. So I kind of feel like that's where we're at with the funding streams as we have voted to go to referendum. So we know that those things will be addressed in the operational and the capital referendum that we have. Looking at B, that equitable resourcing, where it's talking about monitoring and reviewing enrollment data, adjust facilities and personnel to align with the current and future needs of the district. We're in that process now. We've taken some action on administrative contracts. Dr. Garrison is leading the reconfiguration as we're studying that, since we are down about 2,000 students. Like, how do we make adjustments in our building? In our buildings, we'll also have to address later teacher contracts when that comes up. And then even in C, that we shared that information with the ad hoc committee to kind of create that understanding of this is what we're dealing with in our finances. But then also looks at that place to develop that annual feedback so our community can see that. And we're kind of at the place, like in the end, when the election kind of comes around, that people will end up voting. And so that, that'll be a space where people, also have the opportunity to be updated on that. Mr. Shope, I know you just got that second part there, but that's that transparency communication with our community. I think that we have achieved that part to kind of put the facts out there so people can see what's going on. Can you go to the school district employee community survey and go to page, we'll start with page 43 first. Right, the school perceptions, 21-22 School District Beloit Community Survey. The summary report. All right.
Sorry, you said page 48?
40, start at 43, 42, I think 42, 43. All right. Oh, not the link, not the email, yeah, not the website link, the attachment. Yep, that one. Yeah, start at page 42. So kind of just, now this survey was completed last year, but it's important, and even as we're bringing Dr. Garrison on, I know that for some of us, because, we've sat through these things, but, and I know he has, watched board meetings, but we want to make sure that all this other information is back there, is in front of him. We engage with school perceptions to help us get an understanding of where our community is and allow them to have direct input into some things that we needed to shape. This work started like a year ago. And so like most other school districts across Wisconsin, Beloit has experienced a decline in student enrollment. We currently serve about 5,500 students, nearly 25% less than 15 years ago. The fewer students we have, the less money we receive from the state. At the same time, our costs continue to increase, especially for special education services, transportation, and utilities. Voters in many Wisconsin districts, 65%, have approved an operational referendum to help address these funding challenges. We will need to secure an operational referendum to maintain current class size, programs, and student services. Can you go to 43? And so that was the survey as it was put out. And then school perceptions did measure for us the question, would you support the district pursuing an operational referendum to maintain programs and student services? And at this time, we didn't have, specific numbers, but I think the staff supporting that 58%, families supporting that 52%, and 34% for community. And so that kind of put us in that space even last January as we've been talking about what we may need to do with referendum, that some clarity needed to be developed. Can you go to page 40? Can you go to 46? Because on 46, we asked a question about capital. And we were at 62% of staff, 65% of parents, and 37% of community understanding that capital question and showing support for it. So you can go all the way down to 53, please, Michelle. So lastly, on that one, where we close on 53. Oh, okay, maybe go back to 51 then. I'm sorry. 51. The question that we were left with was that we need to clarify plans for our operational capital referendum so that the community members understood what we were doing. So it came into questions like what projects are needed, why are those projects needed, and how much will the projects cost? And so even as we continue to shape the steps we need to take for the operational and the capital referendum, kind of come back to that and use this tool. Dr. Garrison, you have anything to add in this area as we're closing up on finance?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Board President Levy. And yes, we have, and when we think about the school perception survey, what it does is it gives us a very general overview of kind of where our public is. And now we're at a point where the board has agreed to move towards referenda. We worked through some ad hoc committee conversations. Right now, as it pertains to support from our both committee and the board, we will be moving forward with a both capital referenda and, like you mentioned, an operational referenda. The capital referenda, we will be moving forward with a $19.5 million conversation that will help us in conversations around our in our high school, and of course the stadium upgrades, along with our Fourth Street entrance that will impact our entire community. And as you already mentioned, that answers again um, uh, what projects are needed, right, from a capital conversation. When you look at why are these projects needed, naturally, I'm just speaking from a capital perspective, and if you want me to, board president, I can speak from an operational piece as well. But just giving a snapshot, why are these projects needed? Well, I'm not sure if many people have been in our high school during the summertime, and it's pretty hot. And we're thinking about our stadium conversation. We can't host WIA events because our fields aren't upgraded. Our fields aren't regulation. And so, although we may have had some great teams here, we can't either host and or have WIA events here on our fields because our fields aren't regulated. Now, that doesn't mean just the football fields. It also captures some of our baseball diamonds and some of our soccer complexes as well. And then when you think about our Fourth Street conversation, the Fourth Street conversation that's been happening at least since 2017, or a little bit before then, when we have pretty much went into conversation with the city, and then of course things stopped. To be quite honest, progress wasn't made on how we're going to continue those projects, and now we're here in 2023, where we are asking the public to support us in the capital referendum to help us finish that conversation that we started about 5 years or so ago, as pertains to that Fourth Street concern with our high school. We know that when you look at our school district, we want our all of our facilities to be welcoming, and it's kind of hard to say that about our high school when you see big roadblock signs saying, you can't come here, you can't go through this area, and that happens to be where our entrance is for our high school students. And so we want to change that. And so that again goes to why are these projects needed? And again, I've just covered the $9.5 million that it will cost, and that will just cover the capital referendum. Board President Levy, would you like me to proceed with operational, or that's just give a good enough snapshot?
Yeah, address our operational real quick.
Okay, sure. From the operational conversation, we've had multiple conversations with that as well. From a fund balance conversation, we've been having conversations about, when you think about our school district, we have a policy. Number one, the fund balance policy requires us to keep about 14 to 20% of our funds for operational costs. And I like to use the analogy of a dish rag. We squeezed all that money out of that rag, and we're to the point now where we will have to come to the public to ask for additional support in replenishing our fund balance. When you think about fund balance, there's a lot of different things that we use fund balance for. Number one, to pay bills. Number two, to pay staffing that may come up throughout the year. And number three, if there's something that ever happens in the school district, where let's just use the KEC as an example. Let's say the motherboards all crash and we have to fix that. That fund balance we can dip into our fund balance to pay for those emergency operational conversations that happens in a district regularly. On top of that, we also think about fund balance from the aspect of the state sends us money, right, for students, and the state sends us money on certain times during the school year, and the state oftentimes don't send us the money when we really want it, but they do send us the money, and sometimes we have to dip into our fund balance to make sure we're balancing our budgets, that in essence being able to pay our bills. Overall, our fund balance is very important to how we operate our school district, and we're asking the public for a 2-year opportunity to support us in that conversation. In the first year, that conversation will look like somewhere close to, give me 1 second. Sorry, my screen changed and I got papers here. In the first conversation, our fund balance will be, my apologies. Oh, it's not right there. Oh, shoot. I don't.
At the 14 million in the first one and the 9 in the second.
Correct. 14 in the first year and 9 in the second year. I was going to try to give you exact numbers. My apologies. I have to pull it up on my computer.
That's fine.
And overall, that 14 million will again support not just our fund balance, but also will support our operational side on the first year. And the operational side, we on I should say the other part of operational will help support SEL work, teaching and learning opportunities, and of course we have SEL teaching and learning, and there's a third category I'm missing right now as well. And my apologies. I was trying to pull it up. Give me 1 second. Sorry. SEL, teaching and learning,
Social emotional.
and social learning. And so those three we will work towards in an operational request to our public as well. The first year it'll be about $6 million that we'll ask for, and then the second year it'll be about $3 million that we'll ask for. Overall, both of these conversations will be over a 2-year request, and it will not impact overall taxes. And again, these conversations is what we are leaning towards as it pertains to how much will the projects cost. And I apologize for not having that information pulled up right away when you asked it.
Board Member Anderson?
So the thing I was going to add was, so like objective A, stabilizing our budget. With us going to a referendum, we are, our goal is to maintain the current mill rate. So right between like $4, $5, and having that 2-year referendum, it's helping stabilize that. So we don't see that dramatic drop or increase over time. It makes it better for our community because it's easier to plan as tax season comes around on what you could be expecting to pay. Because without the referendum, we're expecting a massive drop in the mill rate. It's a good thing for taxpayers. Everyone's going to be happy on that break. But then the school district's budget's going to suffer for that.
Yeah, right. And just kind of, I don't know, any other board member have anything they want to add in the finance conversation? Okay.
I agree with, getting a stable budget, but right sizing what we have both in the district and building so we have a good budget is really important. I know we're looking at the referendum, but it's kind of like our ability to stabilize the needs that we have at this point while we continue to work through all of the other pieces that go with that. And replenishing the fund balance is important. It's kind of like at your own home. If you empty your checking account, you have to go to your savings account. But if you don't have any money in your savings account, then you go to where to get the money. So it'd be like going to check into cash or any of those spots, which ultimately are going to cost you more money because you have to borrow. And so we don't want to continue borrowing, which raises the cost of doing business. As well, if we continue to do that, our bond rating drops, which means anything we do with bonds means it's going to cost you more money. So by stabilizing this, we can stabilize the budget over 2 years, and be able to move forward with all of the things that we need to do. I really like the budget forecasting model, the tool that we've been using. And that I think is giving us a lot of better information up front so we understand what the budget really looks like by projecting out into the future, and then of course changing those when we need to do that. So as we go forward with that, all these other pieces become really important to make sure that the community is aware of everything that we are doing as we go forth with.
Board Member Levy?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that with our decision to go with the 2-year referendum plan, everything for the capital and operational has been discussed, but I just wanted to point out that gives us the opportunity to potentially have our fund balance back at 14%. in that first year, and then potentially having our fund balance at 20% for that second year.
Right, that's added. Board Member Anderson, do you have something else to add?
Something outside of the referendum, though, is for the transparency and communication side for our objective C. I think that's part where it kind of falls into like my finance or school finance 101 that we do during our committee meeting, is because it's a knowledge part for the board members that are part of it, because we don't do day-to-day finance things for the school district. And also it allows community members that are watching us, attending, either watching on YouTube or in person. It gives them a chance to start like making connections to fully understand some of the decisions that are being made with school finance and why we get the numbers that we do.
Yeah, it's just, as I said, as we kind of close out on this one, just reiterate that, you know, in that monitoring review, adjusting the line, that before we get to April and voters vote, there's other decisions that we'll have to make along the way. As Dr. Garrison has outlined for us, that so simultaneously as people are going to vote, we will have, you know, made some decisions that kind of show the beginning of us adjusting the budget so that we're able to impact the areas that we can. So that is finance. Our second category is the whole child, which is really not, well, as we move through the, that's page 12 in the strategic plan, our area of whole child. So objective, priority of whole child, the school district of Beloit honors the whole child through our focus on student achievement, social emotional well-being, and health and wellness to allow all students to thrive, reach their greatest potential, and demonstrate qualities found within our portrait of a graduate. Objective A, the school district of Beloit will move our state report card from fails to meet expectations to meeting expectations through an increase in equitable academic outcomes across demographic groups. Reporting years 23, 24, and 25. Objective B, social emotional learning. The school district of Beloit will build and strengthen school systems and support around the social, emotional, and behavioral wellness of the school community through implementing strong positive behavior intervention and supports, PBIS, culturally responsive practices and restorative practices. And Objective C, health and wellness. School district of Beloit will ensure equitable access to district health and wellness resources, as well as sports and co-curricular activities across all demographic groups. I'll kind of just, A space, I'll take a first kick here just to kind of get us started, was, Ms. Show, can you go to the redefining ready slide? It's just in this part where we're talking about the whole child, one of our subjects is academic achievement. And one of the things for us as board members that we will have to do that has not specifically been done yet, and is to identify our learning targets or our goals. Of course, I'm going to try to talk you through the navigation. Mr. Show, can you go to readiness scorecards across the top? Yeah, that's the right. No, that's you're on the right. Across Wisconsin Redefining Readiness Scorecards. Click there, please. And so, of course, we know we have our state report card, which we did move up a grade from where we were at. But then go down on the on that one, and here's an example of an elementary scorecard. Looking at our attendance rate, which is a predictor of third grade reading success. Self-regulation, when we talk about the learning environment for our children, but that children's self-regulation skills, ability to maintain, engage, focus, stay on task, inhibit inappropriate behaviors, denied gratification predicts later school success, that reading readiness, that math readiness. I think on the website it's not coming across, but the link is there. But what these scorecards do is they kind of identify the district set out the measurements. I think as a parent, the thing that I'm concerned about is the school district being able to tell me, you see an example, one of those scorecards there, is the school district being able to tell me that you've accurately measured my child. So not only are you looking at how the buildings are performing, but let me know, is my student at, above, or below the standard that they should be, so we can enhance the work that we do at home if that's necessary, or we can continue to support that growth. I think that one of the things that we do hear our community asking about, rightfully so, is what is our academic achievement? And this is just one of those tools. And I think that as we work with our administration, that they will work with us to help make some of these abstract ideas of students doing well in school more concrete. And in the end, it's not just about, it's great to tell me how Fruzen is doing, but my student is at Fruzen. I want to know how my kid is doing also. And so this is one of those other tools to help us monitor that area of academic achievement in the whole child. And I'm going to, anybody else, board members, to address the whole child area.
Board President Levy, do you mind coming in real quick? Or did you want, I'm sorry, you said board members. My apologies.
Oh, are you speaking, Dr. Garrison?
Oh, I heard you say board members. I didn't know if you want me to jump in real quick.
Board members or Dr. Garrison.
I just want to make sure I follow suit. So, I think I love Redefine Already has been out there for a while, and I think it's something that we can definitely use as a data tool, as a tool to make sure our parents know kind of where each student is. I think you have to get there through data, though, right? And that's where we have pretty much been using a tool called EduClimber as our dashboard that we want to really try to delve into. We've done some teaching and learning conversations around the EduClimber dashboard this year, where we want to build this dashboard for all schools, which will house academic achievement and behavioral data, such as assessments or GPA. Let's see if you can have for ninth grade, or track attendance. We can use that for EduClimber as well, and referrals. We can use that under EduClimber as well. The good thing about it is it also supports ideas that's already in our strategic plan. The strategy is to build out data dashboards that align with our overall strategic priorities, so that equity can be met through, again, using our strategic plan. And so when you think about data in general, it's this tool that we are kind of already using. I say kind of because we want to make sure that all of our schools are using it. And I can't 100% say that all of our schools are using the EduClimber piece, but we have started this conversation this year, and a lot of it has already been brought to the Teaching and Learning Committee just last week, because I wanted to make sure that we did have a tool that we can actually use to track this exact conversation. So again, Board President Levy, thank you for bringing it to the table. But we did last week, just like matter of fact, again, last week we did bring this conversation to the Teaching and Learning Committee using a tool that we can actually show people that we're tracking this information. And now the real key is to get this information into the parents' hands. And I know you just mentioned that as well.
All right. Other board members?
Board President Levy, this is Megan. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah, that actually segued nicely into the question that I had. So given that we want data to be, the focus of the, kind of the driver of the conversation, one thing that personally I would find useful and that I know is inherently a part of EduClimber is intervention. So, there was a time that our school district was state recognized as having like the predominant, like awesome RTI program. This was back before MLSS terminology was RTI. And, I'm very proud of school district Beloit for that. I think it would be really useful in those updates, not only to see, I guess, just to take a look at what the ROI is on the interventions that we have and like where interventions exist, so that as a parent, like who maybe isn't informed, can like look at a report like that and see, oh, my child's like intermediate school or middle school like has an intervention program, and like this is what my child's progress, or my child's like cohort's progress is, or something like that. Like I just think it's important to like
add visibility to the fact that we have intervention. And as a board member, I'm interested to see like how our interventions are being used to support that student achievement, so we can make like informed decisions about the vision going forward as we continue to implement our strategic plan.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, then I'll make one more, and then if nobody else has anything, I'll leave it to anybody. This is the last one. I just want to hit on the C part, where we do mention our sports and co-curricular activities. That, you know, that's our academics, our arts, the athletics, all the activities that we have for our students. That is a part of our strategic plan also, even in that referendum conversation. Some of the facility upgrades that are happening support that. We've also taken other actions, like earlier in this fall when the Human Resources Committee came, we approved more in terms of pay for the theatrical productions. It goes to the person, but it goes to the person that is serving the students. And so I think that, you know, when we think about our school district, it's not just as a, like I said, as an educator myself, I tell people students don't remember a worksheet or sometimes the specific things that you do in a classroom unless they're like the engaging activities. There's experiences and ways that we make students feel when they say that I had a great time growing up in Beloit, doing certain things with my classmates or being certain places. And that is a part of the experiences that we want to create for our students in that area of whole child. So just something to keep in mind as we're working through and that we're able to provide for those opportunities for our students. Anybody else in this area? All right, we'll move on. I think our next area that we have listed as a priority, look at the agenda again, is our equity priority. In this equity priority, I listed two things. There's a link to the Burlington Area School District and then also to the Integrated Comprehensive Systems for Equity Audit. A lot of times, one, we want to look to what a neighboring district of ours is doing. As you look at their webpage, the work that they're engaged in, every district is in its own place in progress. But I just wanted to highlight some of the work that they're doing and some of the tools that they're using when you get a chance to look at that integrated comprehensive report for that equity audit. Dr. Colleen Capper out of UW-Madison, Dr. Elise Ventura from UW-Milwaukee worked directly with the district. And so in that document, it's 96 pages, but on that district's webpage and in their link, and the doctors make the presentation also, they highlight the inequities that are happening in the district or where there's a disproportionate outcome. And the purpose is, after we find these disproportionate outcomes, is to be able to address them. That's kind of like the interventions that Board Member Miller is speaking about. But there's a comprehensive way to go about this. And when we do take further steps into our equity work, as I pointed out with what's there, and we'll have the opportunity to see, like I said, again, this is one of those things that sometimes is abstract to people until they've actually seen certain artifacts. But I'd like us to take a serious step to get the right tools and resources for our administrators and our people so we can get about the greatest result for our students when we come to that area. And then I'll open it to other board members in our area of equity. I didn't read I forgot to read in our strategic plan, when it comes to equity, the School District of Beloit believes in creating an environment that honors and respects our human differences, works to ensure everyone is welcomed, and commits to removing barriers and providing support for individuals to achieve their greatest potential. Objective A, addressing disproportionality. The School District of Beloit will leverage internal and external stakeholders to reveal and address disproportionality across the district. Objective B, systems and structures. The school district board will develop strong systems and structures to ensure there is responsibility and accountability for the equity work within each school and the district. And objective C, data structures. The school district board will build comprehensive and robust data structures and protocols to identify barriers to success. And so once you click on the Integrated Comprehensive Systems Report, you'll see the different data presentations, as Dr. Garrison talked about EduClimber earlier, that all these things kind of work together, but we need those pieces in place because it's some of the work that we have engaged in Beloit, but other parts where the work can go further. And even when it comes to equity, it actually takes board action so that it's supported all the way through the organization. Right. So this equity is open. Dr. Garrison, board members. I'll start by recognizing Board Member Levy. I see your hand.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. Thank you for providing this resource. And also, I just wanted to point out that the Race to Equity report is another great place when you're looking for math and reading proficiencies, is also with disparities with discipline. It's specific to Rock County, and the school district of Beloit is one of the districts that is segmented out and highlighted in that report. So I think that would be a good resource for us to use. And then, of course, we will compile, I'm certain, our own up-to-date current data.
That document was produced by the YWCA Rock County. And you?
YWCA Rock County, and also Kids Forward, who also did the Race to Equity Dane County report. That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. My oversight. Resources in our community. Any other board members or Dr. Garrison?
Yeah, sorry about that. My jumping in on.
You muted yourself, Dr. Garrison.
I muted myself. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. As stated, we've been working with Rodney Thomas as well. From an administrative perspective, it's very important that we have deeper dives into conversations around equity and equity issues, and here in our school district, but most importantly, how our adults are handling certain issues that come up in our school. We also work with the New Root opportunity, which focuses on restorative practices in our district. Last year, the board also agreed for us to enter into that conversation, and I believe it's actually yielding some results. From last year to this year, our overall administrative hearings have been down this year from last year to this point. And I believe that conversation that we took a deep delve into from an administration perspective is partly the reason of that. Restorative practices and looking at equity, conversation, and discipline oftentimes run into each other. But I believe it's the work that we're supposed to be doing, especially when you're working with kids. Now, I have to be honest, as a school superintendent, at different ages, kids will do different things. And it's our responsibility to work through those situations. Dr. Irby, I should say, UWM from when he was at UWM, now he's at University of Chicago Loyola, talk about the net widening and the net deepening conversation, where kids are sometimes going to get in trouble. But our goal is not to try to catch every kid in trouble all the time. And from that conversation, we also believe that sometimes kids should fall out of trouble, right? They're able to have conversations, have restorative conversations, and get back on track. And that's a balance that the school district has to operate in. But we can't do any of that work and all of that work without the communication. And of course, not only communication, but the sharing of ideas and how we can actually get to the end result, which is student achievement for all students. I'm using the discipline as one part of that conversation from equity, but we also know that comes in achievement as well. When kids aren't successful in school, oftentimes that leads to behavioral problems. So we need our students to be successful on a daily basis so they can feel that achievement is actually happening for them. One of the things that we can do is actually listen to what our kids want. I think that's very important to say, you know, what is it that you want to see in your own conversation around academic achievement, and provide opportunities for them to actually move in that direction. I believe we're doing some of that in our school district, but we have to do a lot more.
Right. I was gonna say, I'll highlight, like you said, that, you know, in C with data structures, it does talk about collecting that student feedback. But then also too, like two areas there, that in that equity space of actually using those data structures, those different tools like the scorecards from Redefining Ready, understanding what exams or indicators of success come for our students, that, you know, for our district, that we will be addressing that the equity conversation, the data tools and structures, that's very important to us, addressing people's perceptions and their lived experiences in our learning environments, so that school feels like what we expect a school to feel like, a sense of order and academic purpose, and then also that there's academic achievement in our students. Everyone learns at, you know, different paces and rates, but being able to provide parents the feedback and provide the learners the feedback, you know, that whether they're at, above, or below where they should be, and then provide that assistance to help them get to where they need to be and where they're trying to go in their own identified career plan. So those areas will come up again, like I said, specifically that, you know, equity audit is mentioned in our strategic plan. Anybody else on equity? All right, so we will move on to the next area. Oh, I see Melissa has a hand raised. Melissa Beavers.
Yep, I just wanted to piggyback on what Dr. Garrison said with the work with Rodney Thomas. It was driven by an equity audit that we did do with Beloved Communities, and that's where we kind of teased out some of the strategies and objective areas in this section right here.
One of the other things I'll kind of add to the conversation, thank you for providing that background, is, say, like, you know, at the board level, one of the other things we included was our annual board development tool. And so, you know, with Dr. Garrison in place now, I know there are some things that the administrative team does. It's in your day-to-day work. But when you get to the, I think, engagement section where we'll talk about the board evaluation, there's questions that we have to answer. And if we're not aware, so through the work, we have to made it aware to us so that we were able to answer positively in our self-reflection on where our district is at. So that's just kind of another point to note as we go through the different areas, and then you have the opportunity to reflect on the assessment that we're providing for ourselves in our critical reflection, so that we know we're providing direction and asking for those things so we can give that feedback. And by all means, if we're doing things, that we can note that those things have been achieved in the district when we do our self-evaluation. All right, just a minute. So our next one is our engagement priority. And let me move to page 14, engagement. Our engagement priority: the school district of Beloit nurtures and cultivates an engaged student, family, staff, and community through consistent, proactive connections, clear and relevant communication, and strong relationship building with an emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Objective A, students, engagement and belonging. The school district of Beloit will nurture and cultivate student engagement by removing obstacles and providing diverse perspectives and experiences for our 4K through 12th grade students. Objective B, families, engagement, and communication. The school district of Beloit will nurture and cultivate engaged families through consistent and effective communication, outreach, and partnerships. Objective C, staff engagement and development. The school district of Beloit will nurture, cultivate engaged staff through consistent and effective communication and collaboration through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And objective D, community engagement and partnerships. The school district of Beloit will nurture and cultivate an engaged community through consistent and effective communication, collaboration, and partnerships. And so, just take the first kick here. Just looking at, like, again, with A, if that's students, we want to make Beloit be a place, continue to be a place where people live. You graduate, you go off to do some other things, and there's an opportunity to come home to contribute positively, but more so by the experiences that you've had when you were a student. You want to come home and make a contribution. Looking at B, our families, when we think about, like, as we're growing and working with students, you see students through the years when you're looking at your own kids grow, that our schools really are a center of our community, and the experiences that we're having commonly together as our children are moving through the different age groups. And then in our staff engagement, that it really is the people that make a place great. And as a parent, you want to know that you have good adults that are kind and decent, that are in front of your children, making decisions and leading them. And then even in the community engagement part, there's a space of understanding our policies and the framework that creates the lived experience for our employees and our students. In that space, and having that that opportunity for the community to be engaged in our work. And in that direction, I listed that Neola resource because when we think about, like, some of our policy decisions, it doesn't take away from our ability to make those decisions, but it is a resource on how we might handle our policy work. Still provides opportunity for the community to have feedback, for the full board and the committees to have feedback. And then Neola is just one resource, but it also provides administrative guidelines to help our administrators have practice or guidance. So we do have in our own policies now, which is the different system of review, but like minus those administrative guidelines. And when you have an impermanence in administrators, the guidelines or the policies sometimes can be different. So I just wanted to list those and add that to the conversation. Others with things to add to the conversation and engagement. Board members or Dr. Garrison.
Board President Levy, I believe that you touched on all the points that I would speak to. Engagement is something that we want to touch on throughout our whole entire school district. Just last week, we had a conversation, not on a conversation, but a presentation at the high school where we really focused on our students getting experiences and the career opportunities here in our school district from CTE conversations, and it went very well. Now, I'm thinking from a holistic perspective, when you're thinking about whole child, it is our responsibility to make sure that our students have different options as they kind of grow through school, right? Grow through school and to experience different things as pertains to their career opportunities. We would hope that, again, they will come back to our school district. Not a hope. We would want our students to come back to our district and support our district in many different ways, whether it be in the teaching field or, let's just say, even being an electrician in the school district of Beloit. Regardless, our opportunities are vast when we start to truly engage our students in some of their career choice opportunities. Some of that work can be also seen in snapshots from the work that we're doing with our guidance counselors in our high schools, but it's also a conversation that we have to have on a regular basis with our kids. And so parents, naturally, I would love for you to continue to have a conversation with your kids and bring that information to us, whether it be in a parent-teacher conference or just sharing the information in an email with your principal or your guidance counselor. Those conversations are very important, excuse me, as it pertains to how we want our students to feel like they have a welcoming place where they can grow, and not only grow, but thrive in our school district moving forward.
Any other board members? All right, so then we'll move to our last area. Culture and leadership priority. What do you say? What page is that? Page 10. All right. All right. Culture and leadership. School District of Beloit commits to fostering a responsive, caring, and inclusive culture where all feel valued, supported, and hopeful. Objective A, belonging and trust. The School District of Beloit will develop authentic relationships with all stakeholders, students, staff, families, and community by creating welcoming environments, nurturing, open, trusting relationships, practicing mutual respect, and engaging in proactive communication. Objective B, leadership and staffing. The School District of Beloit will have systems in place that promote recruitment, retention, and success planning for all staff. Our systems will value, appreciate, and support our staff and their professional growth needs, pursuits of excellence, and efforts to ensure the success of every student. Objective C, collective efficacy. School District of Beloit will share a collective belief that students, families, staff, and community members can positively impact students. And so in that space, again, A, to focus on our relationships. B, what I did link is those CISA 6 standards. That is just a tool. Our evaluation for the district administrator, for our superintendent, is the DAPES model, the STRONG model. But in that link, Ms. Shope, can you go to that link? It just provides an example of, now those are the standards for all categories of employees. And those standards are written at the effective level, but there's also another level of distinguished, and then developing needs improvement, and then unsuccessful. But in that space, from one of the things that we're developing in our culture and leadership is that, our superintendent is evaluated, will be evaluated. The community itself makes decisions on whether any of us should be returned if we got elected. And then the superintendent working with the principals, and then evaluating our leaders in the building, our other leaders at different levels in the organization, or ensuring that those evaluations take place. And then the principals evaluating the teachers, because in the end, it's the teachers that we're expecting are evaluating our students, assessing their progress and communicating with parents that your child is at, above, or below where they should be. And it's in that space that also I linked the board's evaluation, and I'm going to have Michelle click on that in a minute. But just as an area to say, some things that we have talked about at the board level is the evaluation of employees, not as a gotcha, but the continuous professional growth that's necessary, and wanting to establish that evaluation for growth, and that support is there to help employees along the way. So just like I said, that this is just a tool. We've made our decision with the tool that we use for the superintendent, but just wanted to add that part to the conversation so that we're providing all staff with clear performance expectations that drive evaluation, professional development, and accountability, as it's listed on page 10. But there's lots of parts to culture and leadership, but those are one of the things that we want to establish, that system of accountability to our community and to each other, because it's for our kids. And then lastly, one of the things I'll add to the, Michelle, can you click on the annual school board development tool? I would ask this specifically, Dr. Garrison, as you get a chance to, look at this tool, and then also if you could have your team look at it so they understand the areas, because as board members, we will answer this. But again, those things and we'll get this done through the course of our work together. But our evaluation is tied to the key work of school boards. And so, when we look at the different committee meetings that happen, it's all for us to be able to answer affirmatively that we, can mark that things have been achieved, we have to know it. And that major interface comes when we have the monthly meetings and that in-between space. So that would be the place where we're able to hit those things and demonstrate the work that we're doing as a board, and that we know that things are in place. So like in this tool, it tells us things as board members that we're supposed to be looking at the organization for as it lines up with the key work of school boards.
Board President Levy, documented. Sure. Board President Levy, what I like about this document, it does give us direction as it pertains to where we could go. I like to think that these types of documents, and again, this is just my own commentary, allows us to have opportunities where we can continuously get better, right? And it's not the fact that we'll never arrive, but when we get there, we still want to continue to get better. And so these documents are definitely needed in our school district, and we do need to report. We do need to report out when we are making gains and things that we need to get better at using this tool, both from a board perspective, but also how we intertwine with our work here in the school district.
Right. Other board members?
And just to piggyback on the thought around just the previous tool that you showed with the Season 6 model, from an evaluation perspective, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that one of the things that I did when I first came to the district was I did make a focus on our evaluation conversations, not only from me to principals, but from principals to teachers. And as you mentioned, that's a very important concept, but I also want to note that that is something that we were working on in our district, and we really want that to be something that we're seeing, that's something that's seen completed in our district as well. Just today, reports were sent out as it pertains to where school buildings are over the past 2 days, I should say. Reports were sent out from the district office to letting the administration know kind of where they are in their evaluation process. And then from my office, 2 principals also completed a lot of their mid-year evaluations as well. And so these themes are not just being talked about in our district, but at this current time, I can specifically state that these things are actually being moved upon as well.
Thank you. And that's the important part when we think about the day-to-day operations. That's, we're trusting you to accomplish those things. You said in the end result, the outcomes are what is the experience for employees, that they're able to be in a job where they're experiencing growth and receive feedback so they can improve in their craft. And then what is the experience for our students, that our students are learning and able to demonstrate their growth in those areas. Culture and leadership for any other board member, staff member, Dr. Garrison. Okay. All right. So if no one else has anything to add, then I'll just kind of share that, in this conversation, while it's been brief, a lot of these are some tools and some thoughts that we need to get out. We do have a number of initiatives in place, but at the same time, we know one of the things that we have to do in our work is time it out. All things need to be done, but when can we get certain things done when we look at what we already have in the work and what's planned out? So this is a part of continue to shape our conversations for the work and prioritizing work to be done. Like I said, so that we can show those gains for our students, that our students have what they need, that we're meeting the expectations of our parents, that we're creating the learning environment and the academic achievement that's necessary, and the work environment that our teachers and other staff members are working in, and that we're aligned as a system, coherent, and reaching goals and meeting the expectations of our community. So we will continue to have these conversations, and from this, there will be some items that will probably come out as specific actions or to-dos, but we'll continue to develop the conversation as we get there. So we're aligned with what we're doing, moving with Dr. Garrison and the board together. Anybody else, anything to add?
No, I think this was really productive, and I'm really glad that we're, just putting the strategic plan at the forefront just sort of showing how everything is in alignment. I think this is really helpful, and I hope that we can continue that.
Right, yeah, we did work through the framework of our strategic plan, because I think one of the other places we want to be able to get to is to be able to get our students out in front and the work. Some of the stuff is like, these things have to happen regardless, but I do feel too that in some ways we need to make a different effort than we've made to have our students be showcased. Because I think that, you know, keeping the students in front and all the things that they're doing, the experiences that they're having, you know, that's a point of unity for people when they understand that we're really working towards helping students have a future and do the things that they want to do in life and prepare them for that. And then it gives us something to celebrate as these learners at all ages are making achievements. All right. So having nothing else, I will entertain and look at the agenda. Oh, we have future meeting dates first. And our next meeting date is Tuesday, February 28th at 6 p.m. And is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
It's been moved by Board Member Spencer Anderson,
Second?
seconded by Board Member Megan Miller. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. We are adjourned. All right, good evening.